Well, hello everybody. It's time for the Expendable Show. Everybody's favorite bad guy. Hey, Bonnie. I've got lots of things to say today, and we're gonna say them all. And whenever Kelly gets in here, I promise I won't use my Colonel Sanders. I won't use my Colonel Sanders accent. That bothered her this morning on my TikTok page. I wasn't going to let Jay Money's video outdo my ridiculousness. No, it's not happening. That means I got to step my game up. But if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. We'll probably talk about some ridiculous things today. That's what we do around here. So let's go through. Hey, Chuck, you made it on time today. So today's episode is brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions and the Islamabad Telegraph. I need to get my sponsor page updated. I got more sponsors to put up there. I need to get the what's the bourbon guys down there in London? I need to get them on here. The tiger bourbon or whatever. Those guys down there. I need to put their logo on here. I like them guys. And if you like all of my political videos that I do on the news, hey Rick, go to my page at Eric Lemko on X, or you can go watch my rapidly growing TikTok page. Hey Linda, it's the.expendable7 on TikTok. So I do want to say thank you to everybody who does watch my TikTok religiously, because 30 days I've had my page back officially, 30 days, and I have 250,000 views already. So thank you. Things are taking off. That means we're reaching people and making a difference. Well, trying to anyway. Trying to make a difference. So let's get through the stats real quick. I've got a couple extra things that we're going to cover in there. So gas, even though this war is not over, gas still continues to go down. The national average is 402 right now. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I made a new backdrop. I changed it. I got me a little bookshelf back here now. I got because the producers were like of Pakistan TV. They're like, "Can you change your backdrop? It's too friendly." I'm like, fine. So I finally did it. They're gonna be happy. But I made sure I put the Bible back here. So we'll see how fast the Muslims find out that I got a Bible back there. I can't ever just follow the rules. It's like impossible for me. And I got my Trump sign up here too. So I got a Trump sign and I got the Bible. Let's see how mad I can make India and Pakistan. So anyway, one day I'm just going to follow the rules. I just can't do it. Like I think I got that one syndrome that these kids get. What do they get where they don't ever want to listen? Defiant. I know. Thanks, Freddie. You got to have the Bible up here. God's got my back on this side. God's got my back right now. So anyway, the mortgage rates, we're at 6.125%. And you know what? The Grayson people are popping in today. And I like that. Grayson's about to get heated pretty soon. I promise. Bonnie, you're funny. So anyway, the mortgage rates are down to 6.125. They are doing confirmations for Trump's guy that's supposed to be replacing Jerome Powell. They were grilling him, they were trying to say he's just going to listen to Trump. Like, you're going to lower the interest rates just because Trump said so. What American doesn't want the interest rates lower? Do the Democrats ever listen to themselves when they ask questions in Congress? Sometimes, like, I get it. They're trying to make a point, but their point was completely counterproductive to what the American people would want. Yes, it's more complicated than that, because there is the If you do too much too fast, you're going to negatively affect the economy. I get that. But I feel like Jerome Powell's been sitting on the interest rates for far too long. I think it's time that we get into the lower fives, high fours. We should be right in there, but we'll see what happens. The war is definitely not helping things out. So Trump's approval rating, he did drop a little bit. So he's at 40.5. This is probably close to the lowest that I've seen him at in this presidency. The Dow Jones closed at $49,490.03. So the Dow's up from last episode. It's weird how we're not really. I mean, we saw like a major shift there for a minute, but we're right back to where we were before the war. So I think the ceasefire is helping with that, even though there's still issues going on. The ceasefire is still keeping our economy stable. So I did look at the updated Democrat presidential polling for 2028 and give you guys an update on where everybody's at. So Kamala is the leader, and she's pulling away from the group. She's at 27%. Gavin Newsom, he continues to drop. So he was well over 20%. He's at 19.1% now. So he's below 20%. Somebody who's a sleeper that's closing in a little bit is Mayor Pete. Where's G-Bro at? That's his mayor. Pete Buttigieg is at 11.0%. AOC, she dropped. She's at 7.8. Shapiro Brown, he's at 6.8%. Mark Kelly, he dropped. He's at 5.0%. JB Pritzker stayed the same. He's at 4.0%. Cory Booker dropped. He's at 3.6%. Andy Beshear stayed the same. He's at 2.8%. And Gretchen Whitmer's at 2.0%. So I don't know if you guys seen that. I know I shared it with Bonnie. But I wanted to make sure and remind everybody how much of a crappy Governor Andy Beshear is, and made sure I name dropped Weddle and wrote a really nice article for all of the international community to read. So it's out there. I'm sure that, like I was telling Bonnie, like Bonnie said Weddle can't read. So I said, well, maybe Larry Bryson read it to him. That's what I'm hoping happened. I know that there's probably a lot of big words in there that Weddle's going to be like, he. Bryson would be like, it's the. I don't want to make fun of people that can't read, but Weddle just takes the cake. Thanks, Bonnie. I appreciate that. You know, Chuck, I was actually pondering that today. Like, what would that look like? And I don't think Andy Beshear is going to pull enough support to really give a legitimate presidential run. But I do think he's setting up for a vice president appointment. So I'm going to keep an eye on that because I do think that's where his positioning is best suited at. So we'll see what he tries to do, what that strategy is going to look like. I could see a Harris Beshear ticket. Hey, Kathy, I told everybody from Grayson's showing up today. It's weird. Must be my Grayson show. But let's get into the first story. So finally, I know I've been very critical, of the Department of Justice. I was not a big fan of Pam Bondi at all. Todd Blanche, he kind of goes hand in hand with Pam Bondi, I feel, but today he was a hero. And finally, we get some big name stuff out of Kash Patel. I'm hoping that this is going to be the beginning of a lot. I feel like it is now that I've seen how these things play out. I do think that we're going to see more. So let's get into this one and we'll break that down a little bit because I have my thoughts on what is happening. So the Department of Justice has indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, by the way, the legacy media, they showed a thing today that they have covered that story 0 minutes. So that was on 11 federal. The organization secretly paid extremist groups members while telling donors it was dismantling those same groups. So they're being charged with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. So this is we'll go through the story and I'll tell you what these guys are, what they're trying to do. So federal prosecutors say the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, paid more than $3 million between 2014 and 2023, which when you really think about it, when you break it down for 10 years, it's really not that much money. But they paid to individuals with groups such as the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nation, the National Socialist Movement, and the American Front. So according to the indictment, these payments were routed through shell companies and fictitious entities, then moved into prepaid cards to obscure their origin. Bonnie, I think that's where Kash Patel's going with this. I think this is the first case of several that we're going to see, and one of them's going to lead to the January 6th stuff. I feel like that's where he's going with this. He's getting us ready for a big one. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche stated that the SPLC was manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources who then helped stoke racial hatred. The DOJ argues that the SPLC's donor messaging claims funds were used to dismantle hate groups was contradicted by its own covert funding and individuals inside those same groups. So interim CEO Brian Fair, well, if we put an IS on the end of that, that would say Brian Ferris. He's got to be a crook. Hey, Jessica. So he called the allegations false, arguing that the organization was paid confidential informants to monitor violent extremist groups and that his intelligence was often shared with FBI and other law enforcement agencies. Fair says the SPLC is being targeted politically. Of course, it's always Donald Trump's fault. We have to remember that anytime anything happens, it's going to be Donald Trump's fault. So just get ready. It's Donald Trump's fault that they gave money to white supremacy groups. Keep that in mind. The SPLC maintains that infiltrating extremist groups has long been part of its mission, dating back to Klan Watch program for the 1980s. Hey, awesome. So the DOJ says the investigation began years ago, was paused during the Biden administration for whatever reason, and then revived under the current administration. FBI Director Kash Patel stated that the SPLC lied to donors and used covert accounts to pay extremist leaders. Some experts note that paying informants is a tactic the FBI itself has used for decades, though the DOJ argues that SPLC's conduct crossed into fraud because donors were not told extremist actors. So here's what they're doing. They got caught. So they're not, the Department of Justice isn't saying anything about the extremist groups. What they're saying is if you're going to stick with that story, why did you hide the money? Why is the money being transferred all over the place and then you tried to make it untraceable? That's where the hiccup in this story is. When you look at it from a legal standpoint, if I was a prosecutor, that's the first question I'm going to ask is why did you try to hide the money? If you're giving information over to the FBI, then why is this money being hidden? And where are the reports of that you conducted work with the FBI? Now, what they're saying also is, well, we were running these covert operations. You're a nonprofit organization. Since when does a nonprofit organization, I mean, it does happen, but this is supposed to be the Southern, this is like a civil rights group. Why are they doing covert operations? This is the biggest joke excuse that I've heard in a long time. And just like they said, they were not advising the donors of what they were doing with that money. And it may have caused them to not gain donorship because it does look like, even if, let's say that maybe it's not what we think it is, it doesn't look good. It definitely doesn't look good. When you're giving money to the Ku Klux Klan and you're giving money to the Aryan Nation, who's basically a neo-Nazi group. You're given now. What's their excuse for the socialist movement? They gave money to them too. Were they trying to infiltrate the socialists? Highly doubt it. A lot of big name people were donating to the Southern Poverty Law Center. So it does sound like London. Maybe Randall Weddle's like the CEO of this company. I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. So that's that. I'm going to watch this play out. This is going to be one of those cases that's probably going to take a year just to get to the first court hearing. So we'll see what happens. The Southern Poverty Law Center's got a lot of money. They're going to fight this tooth and nail, and we'll see what comes out of it. So Iran has refused to attend the next round of talks, which they made me look like a moron because I had already written an article about what was going to happen at that. I submitted it, it got published, and then they backed out like 10 minutes later. I was like, But I guess sometimes I feel like I need to go faster and get stories out. And then sometimes I'm like, well, maybe I should sit on it and see what happens. Hey, Rachel. So they've refused. And Iran has escalated by firing on or seizing multiple ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices are rising just a little bit. We're not even at $100 a barrel yet. But diplomacy has stalled. The ceasefire, though extended, remains fragile. So Iran fired on 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, with the IRGC seizing at least 2 vessels, the MSC Francesca and the Epaminondas. Maybe I can't read. I need Larry Bryson to come read this for me. He needs to read my script that London City Council gave me. A 3rd ship, Euphoria, was also attacked. These actions underscore Iran's willingness to escalate despite the ceasefire extensions. U.S. naval blockade continues, which that's one of the most brilliant parts of this whole operation. That blockade has Iran screwed. They can't make money. They can't move anything that they need in or out of their country. And then Trump had the talk with Xi Jinping the other day and said, hey, stop giving them stuff through the back door or we're going to have a problem. And so Xi Jinping stopped doing that. So there's a whole thing to that. And the blockade is very successful. Like we said last week, 11 to 17% of the oil market from that region is now diverting to Venezuela and the United States in the Gulf. So we're making money off of it. So yeah, President Trump's going to put out a statement and say, I'm not in a hurry. We can take our time. So good. Take your time. And plus, Iran I don't think we really know who's running Iran. You got the IRGC doing this. The clerics, they don't even talk about the clerics. I was on, I forget which news channel I was on today. I was on 2 of them. No, I was on Pakistan TV. It was on Pakistan TV. So they had some delegate from Iran on there with me. And I was expecting a dog fight because usually the Iranians come up with all kinds of nonsense to spew at me when I'm on there. But this guy looked like a beaten dog. He was like basically agreeing with everything that I said. I was like, huh? What? Am I being tricked? Is this a trick of some sorts? But he did not sound very confident in his country. So like I said, like I love going on the international news and doing international news because it gives me a temperature gauge of what's really going on. Because you can't really trust American media because they just feed us whatever's going to get an emotional response out of us. So it did kind of tell me something that they're kind of deflated over there a little bit. And maybe this is just that one guy, but I was really surprised. He was just agreeing with everything that I was saying. So I was, okay, we'll run with it. And like the Pakistani host was trying to bait him to say more, but he wasn't falling for it. He's like, oh, well, we're having a tough time figuring out who's running our country right now. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we agree on that. All U.S.-owned ships, legitimate targets, signaling a more aggressive maritime posture. However, we do know that we're not necessarily in that region. We're kind of outside of the Strait of Hormuz. So Tehran refused to attend round 2 of Islamabad talks, citing U.S.'s excessive demand, shifting positions, and a blockade. It's funny because I was watching some stupid politicians on TV today, and they were like, the U.S. Navy is acting like pirates. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're just forming a blockade. That's not pirating. But they didn't want to call Iran pirating for shooting at vessels from their little tiny little speedboats out in the Strait of Hormuz. Like, who's really, like, do you guys really not have the slightest grasp of like what pirating is or what right and wrong is? Like you say, Iran shooting at tanker ships is not pirating, but just sitting out in the ocean, just kind of checking IDs when they come. That's pirating, though. Come on now. Y'all need to get the logic's not there. Sorry. So the ceasefire was extended indefinitely by Trump, despite earlier signaling he would not extend it, which there's some confusion over that as well. Trump says Axios hasn't been telling the truth, so I don't know. So I'm just going to kind of skip over that one for now. But they're saying that Pakistan has been trying to buy more time for Iran to get it together. So President Trump definitely gave them that time, which I think it's appropriate. Like, we need to get an actual deal, like something that's solid and legit. So for President Trump to say, you know what, I got time. You all go figure it out and let me know. Whoever's running the show, please show up to Pakistan and let's do a real negotiation. So that's kind of where they're at with that. Hezbollah has been firing rockets at Israeli forces in South Lebanon, which they're going to. I'm trying to figure out when they're going to run out. I feel like they shoot off a lot of rockets. Israel responded with strikes. The front remains active despite a separate 10-day ceasefire. So I think the ceasefire basically is revolving around the actual government of Lebanon as opposed to Hezbollah. But Iran doesn't like that because Iran has a lot of money invested into Hezbollah. So they don't like watching their stuff getting blowed up that they paid for. So Iran executed another alleged spy for Israel, signaling continued internal wartime crackdowns. Murals and state messaging inside Iran emphasized defiance and resistance, reinforcing the regime's wartime posture. Now, President Trump did put out a statement today because Iran was, I guess some word got back to the intelligence community that Iran was going to execute like 12 women that were like 15, 16 years old for partaking in the protest. President Trump immediately said, don't touch a hair on those girls' head. And supposedly Iran is not going to execute them now, but I don't trust them as far as I can throw them, so who knows? So Trump claims that Iran is collapsing financially, losing 500 straight closure, which they are. Iran is in a very volatile position economically. That the blockade is doing what it's designed to do. It's choking them financially. President Trump is also choking them from the backside, not allowing China to come in and help. Pakistan refuses to do anything because they like being the moderators. So Iran really doesn't have allies helping them right now. And I think that's important. And as this moves on, Iran's going to run out of money. They're going to run out of funds. That's why the first thing that they talk about in their negotiations is, well, can you unfreeze the sanctioned money so we can have some money? And Trump's like, absolutely not. So there's that. I mean, there is a high risk for renewed large-scale fighting. I personally don't think it's going to get to that point. I think Iran's going to fold, and they're going to have to admit their loss. Now, one thing, I was doing some digging today, and this is going to affect the entire state of Kentucky. This probably applies to almost every state in the United States. However, since I cover a lot of Kentucky stuff, I'm just going to microscope it in on Kentucky. So I was doing a lot of research today and going through like the FBI data on the cartels. So as I think a lot of people in Kentucky know, that the major cartel that runs Kentucky is the Jalisco cartel, which they're technically called the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the CJNG. They have an influence in Kentucky, but it operates through distribution networks. Keyword networks. So, which includes money laundering, brokers, local gangs, not through a direct territorial presence, but they have, what they're doing is utilizing the pieces that are already in these communities and coming in and saying, hey, if you don't want no smoke with us cartels, we'll bring the whole cartel in here and flatten your whole town. But you're going to do what we need you to do, and you'll be fine, and you'll make money. So that's kind of how all these little communities are working with the cartels. So they have control over the drug supply chain. So CJNG is one of only 2 Mexican cartels with an established presence in Kentucky. According to the DEA, they supply fentanyl and methamphetamine that move through Lexington, Louisville, and rural counties. DEA officials confirm CJNG and Sinaloa are the primary suppliers of fentanyl entering the U.S., and Lexington has become a regional hub due to the I-75, I-64 access corridor. Kentucky's rural geography makes it attractive. Traffickers prefer low visibility rural corridors over major metro areas. It's much easier. For one, people are scared of cartels. For two, law enforcement generally does not, in rural communities, do not have the resources available to fully attack cartel networks. And three, most of your politicians are in on it. So that's all your problems. So we're going to go through more of that. Local distribution through gangs and small networks. So CJNG does not run street operations directly. Instead, they rely on local gangs in Louisville and Lexington, independent trafficking crews, small town couriers moving product along interstates. I-75. DEA's Operation Last Mile showed CJNG uses local street gangs to fight over markets, drive violence, and distribute fentanyl and meth. Yeah, it's all going to come together. So money laundering that happens inside Kentucky through the cartels. CJNG has used Kentucky as a mode for financial operations, not just drug movement. In 2025, a CJNG money broker in Lexington laundered $5.4 million in cartel proceeds, converting U.S. drug profits into cryptocurrency and sending them back to Mexico. This confirms CJNG's financial infrastructure reaches into the state, not just its drug supply chain. So they're using these brokers to funnel money, launder money, clean it up, make it untraceable, turn it into cryptocurrency, sending it back to Mexico to where they all get rich. And everybody in Kentucky gets to be a flunky. So these structural advantages make Kentucky valuable. The interstate corridors of I-75 and I-64 connect to Detroit, Chicago, Atlanta, which are all major distribution markets. Lower law enforcement density in rural communities makes trafficking less. Proximity to Appalachian demand markets where meth and fentanyl consumption is high. So they know what the supply and demand is of the Appalachias. They know what they need. They know there's a major market for it there. So they mass flood it. So now we look at the human trafficking side of it, which the cartels have a part in it, but this is more of an elitist kind of thing. So this comes straight from the FBI, mind you. So if there's things in here that sound really familiar, it's because the FBI already knows. And Rachel, you're right. I can tell you story upon story about Van Wert and Paulding County that you plug in to all this. Just like the case that's going on right now. I'm gonna touch on that right now because my dad just sent me a news clipping the other day about it. So back in the 70s, there was a little town called Elgin. Little town, I think it's a 4-way stop town. All they got's like a grain silo, a big industrial grain silo, and like a couple houses and like a tiny, maybe a little shop or something. There's nothing there. Maybe 30, 40 people live in this little town of Elgin. Well, there's a warehouse there. Well, poor old mail lady, Miss Mottinger, she's delivering the mail. So she goes up to this warehouse, peeks into the window, slides the mail in, and then sees some gentlemen moving some very large amounts of white powder. They look up, see her. Mrs. Mottinger ends up unalived. So they found her in a couple counties over in Hancock County. So Hancock County is where the city seat is Findlay, and it's the University of Findlay's there, blah, blah, blah. It's where Ben Roethlisberger, if you're a Steelers fan, Ben Roethlisberger's from there. Actually, I went to preschool with Ben Roethlisberger. He's actually from Van Wert, but him and his dad moved and blah, blah, blah. Long story. Anyway, they dump Mrs. Mottinger out in the field. Well, they go arrest the wrong person. They arrest the gentleman's last name Spurko. Spurko gets convicted. He gets the death penalty. Well, Ted Strickland gets rid of his death penalty and says, just do life. Luckily, because now they found a bunch of evidence just recently in the last year and a half that may show that Spurko's innocent. So they're going through that right now. The Van Wert County prosecutors are fighting it tooth and nail, even though this dude may be innocent. They're trying to stop the DNA from getting processed and entered into record. But luckily, Judge Marty Birchfield, who is a friend of mine, is a good judge, and he's fair, and he's going to allow it. So I think that this is going to get overturned, and we're going to see probably the real. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in the community that know who really did it. I know who really did it, but I would like to see Mr. Spurko get out of jail. He didn't do it. Everybody knows who did it, but he's done 48 years or something like that on this case, something like that. Or maybe it was in the 80s. He's in the 40s, but that's a long time to be in prison. And so hopefully justice gets served. So these types of things happen everywhere. Like we had a major cartel. You hear the stories of the judges and lawyers and doctors. They all get together but yada, yada, yada. They go to the local small town airport, and then they unload all the dope, and then somebody flies away. But this happens in all these little towns. All your elites are doing these things. Most of them are. Why do you think Randall Weddle had damn near the National Guard guarding the airport after the tornado? 1 + 1 is 2. All they were doing was putting brush there. I'm pretty sure you don't have to have a bunch of cops guarding brush. Wow, that's a lot of meth. Yep, the local small town airports, that's your hot spot. You want to see how things move around, go sit outside your airport and just watch the planes come in, take pictures of all the tail numbers, and then figure out where they went. Because that stuff's really easy to find out. It's very public. You can pretty much follow an airplane where they went for like the last 30 days. But anyway, human trafficking. This is a big topic. I'm hot and heavy on it right now in Kentucky. Look, the human trafficking problem is going to draw a lot of attention here pretty soon. I've got a good set of ears, and I hear things. So the human trafficking is not a hypothetical thing. This is a real thing, and we don't have control over it as a nation. But across multiple states, including Kentucky, there are confirmed cases involving county jailers, sheriff's deputies, school employees, social service workers, city officials, judges and attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you a story about a girl that's my age when I was in high school. Her name was Lena Hamdi. and her dad was from Iran. And so when he came, he was the local gynecologist. So when he came into town, set up shop, pretty soon he got in bed with all the big shop, big money people. Pretty soon, this big bust happens. And around this girl, Lena Hamdi. So Dr. Hamdi was pimping his daughter out to all the elites in our town. And she was like 16 years old, I think, at the time. And this was like a big hush hush thing. They swept everybody under the rug and let one guy go down for it. And he was the carpet salesman in town, or he owned the carpet company, Taylor Carpet. And he was the only one that went down for it. There were probably 20 or more major elitists in our town that were involved in that ring of prostitution of Lena Hamdi. My ex-wife was like really close friends with her. I know most of this information because she knew firsthand. But they did so much to cover that up. It was insane. I could tell you exactly every single person involved in that. So there was a county judge in Texas that was convicted of running a trafficking ring. A sheriff deputy in North Carolina was charged with trafficking minors. A city official in Ohio was convicted of trafficking and coercion of minors. A school resource officer in Tennessee charged with trafficking a student. So this is something that's not rare. These things happen. And so as communities, you all need to be careful and watch out for these types of things. The signs are there. So some of the problems that keeps them from coming to light. And this is why every town needs somebody who does investigative journalism. Yes, what I do is not lucrative. You don't really make money doing it. It's more of you do it to help people. You do it so people can rest easy at night. This is not a glorified big money thing. Go ask Melissa Jones Smith, whatever her last name is. She's not making any money doing this. She's going to make you think she does, but she don't. I know what that looks like. I'm on the international stage and I ain't making that much money doing that. And so here's one of the problems. Local law enforcement investigates itself. Think about that. Allegation comes up. Who investigates? Local law enforcement investigates itself. So what does a sheriff who's a politician not want? Bad press. So there's somebody go get that rug. We're going to stick this underneath there and never look at it again. So that's a problem. So in many counties, the sheriff, jailer, and county attorney are all part of the same political ecosystem. If a jailer or deputy is involved in trafficking, the first investigators are often their colleagues. So it creates a conflict of interest. Evidence generally gets suppressed. There's quiet resignations instead of charges. That's generally what happens. If it's too bad, they'll just say, hey, man, you got to turn your stuff in. And we just won't make a big deal about it. So what else happens? And this applies to Letcher County in the Mickey Steins case. So some of the victims often get criminalized. That's what they tried to do to the victims of Judge Mullins and apparently Mickey Steins too. What they did was they just they criminalized them. Said, well, these girls are just a bunch of dope heads. Like, what do we believe them? They're liars and dope heads. But every day that trial goes on, the more true it gets. The more true the truth gets. So especially in rural Kentucky, victims are charged with prostitution, drug possession, complicity, probation violations, whatever to discredit them. That's what they do. So this flips the narrative and hides the trafficking component. Local media depends on local government. So when your local government's corrupt, your local media is never going to get the real answers out because we all know local journalists don't dig. Or like your local news stations, they just show up and just cover press conferences. They don't dig. There's no investigative journalist at the major networks anymore. That's a dead horse. So small town newspapers rely on sheriff's office press releases, or they just do whatever Randall Webb Bonnie all over their page, and then get mad when Bonnie's charges get dropped, and then won't apologize, and then I have to go on a smear campaign. So that's how that worked. Losers. Those guys down there are losers. The Echo Sentinel, losers. Come on down. Come on down, Mitch. You can come on down to Georgia. Yeah, come to find out, there's a lot of people who in Laurel County that have some ties to, a little town about 10 miles down the road from me. Huh. Who would have thought? So there's also small town newspapers rely on sheriff's office press releases, county advertising, and political relationships, which makes them corrupt. That would be you for sure. So the FBI or DHS typically intervene only when minors are transported across state lines. This is important for you guys to know, because you guys always are like, well, why is the FBI not doing anything? Well, here's why, because there's rules. Or there's digital evidence that crosses jurisdictions, or corruption is too large for local prosecutors to handle. That's the angle that you guys got to go with this. You have to go to the FBI and say everybody's on the take and nobody's going to prosecute this. They're hiding it. And that's going to be true for most of these communities. I know it's like that in Pulaski County, bad. So Kentucky specifically, the pattern that we're seeing is consistent with the data. So the elected jailer system, which is prime for corruption. Kentucky is the only state where jailers are elected. Even in counties with no jail, there's still a jailer for some reason. This creates patronage jobs, untrained staff, which is what I'm hearing a lot, unchecked authority over detainees, opportunities for coercion. We're seeing all this. I've heard every scenario in the jails that I've paid attention to in Eastern Kentucky specifically. No, the Echo Sentinel's boycotting London because of you, Bonnie. That's power. That's power. I got into it with that dude, the dude who owns it. That dude's a clown, man. He is a super clown. Bonnie, you're a champion. You're a champion. I don't care what they say about you. You're a champion. So high vulnerability populations, because this applies to a lot of Eastern Kentucky. They target places with high addiction rates, because who's going to believe somebody who's strung out on drugs? They target high poverty rates, where people don't have the money to fight the system. Yeah, Bonnie, stay out of jail. They also, this is important, high foster care involvement areas. That's a fact. That's what they get for printing fake news. Fake news, Clay County fake news. So where there's a ton of corruption over there, they act like they're not ever doing anything bad over in Clay County. They have like the Clay 8. It's one of the most infamous corruption cases in the history of Kentucky. Get out of here with that. But anyway, high foster care areas. If you are in an area with high foster care, there's a chance that you are at a high risk for having trafficking problems. High rates of youth homelessness. That's also an issue. Weak oversight, that's a problem. There's no oversight over rural counties, just like the sheriff. There's no oversight over the sheriff other than the constituents. So the sheriff can get away with a lot of stuff. I know, right? Clay County is a disaster. They also have no investigative journalists in these small towns. So there's nobody there to dig and double check them. Now we are seeing that more and more and more. You go up into Pike County and you see like Nicole Hidalgo, which a lot of people know her by Smokeahanas. She's phenomenal at her job. You go over into Western Kentucky and you're going to run into to John Griggs, who's phenomenal at his job. In your area, in the Laurel County, Pulaski area, like that little rural area, you got Crimes with Bobby, who's on top of it. You guys are actually taken care of very well with Bobby. I like him. He's genuine. He's a real good dude overall. Anytime I need something, he gets a hold of me and we compare some notes. He's straightforward. He's a community treasure. So that's that. You're getting more and more of them. You got Hillbilly Crimes. She does her thing. It's just not my thing. So, and then, you have, or there's no internal affairs division. That's a problem. If you have a law enforcement agency and there's no internal affairs, generally there's going to be no accountability for crooked cops. And there's no independent oversight board. And when you look at London, where Randall Weddle doesn't ever want to listen to the oversight that he has, which is the city council, which I'm pretty well aware of the answers that were given to the city council that he made this big deal about. Like, I gave you guys responses. I gave them. No, you didn't give responses, bro. Get out of here with that. You completely dodged the request to city council, claiming it's an illegal investigation. No, it's not. You're an illegal investigation. You got illegal written all over you, literally. What research is detecting is a pattern of conditions, not a single conspiracy. So there's a lot going on. We look at Letcher County. We look at, Pulaski County is probably one of the worst human trafficking areas I've ever seen, which is weird because I've had a lot of stuff behind the scenes happen lately that I've kind of kept to myself. There are things happening. I've noticed there's a certain person that disappeared for a while, but they just pop back up. And there's only one reason why they would pop back up into my world, because we're getting somewhere. It's somebody who is very, very well versed in things. Oh, all you got to do is just make videos, bro. They hate getting exposed because there's nobody's ever exposed them before, and they can't shut me up because I'm 3 states away. I mean, they could, but they're going to be walking into a trap. But every cop in my town knows to watch out for Kentucky license plates. So good luck with that. They know the deal. They know what's going on. This is a protected individual here. So I was getting too involved in that. So I do want to cover the Brooklyn Farthing case in Rockcastle County. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this equation already. You're right, Mitch. The Georgia boys don't play. KSP gets a hold of you, it's over with. They are not gonna look. They're out there. They're out there chasing down the Hellcats out there. Hold on, Freddie. Dang it. I know you're notorious for giving me hints in the comments. So I'm going to cover the Brooklyn Farthing case in depth and point out a major contradicting thing. Well, there's several major contradicting things that I found looking into this. I think I have the case solved. It's just going to come down to whether or not a sheriff in Rockcastle County wants to do his job. So Brooklyn Farthing case centers on her disappearance from a house in Berea, which I don't know if y'all, I'm sure you guys are all from Kentucky. I stop in Berea all the time. That is such a cool little town. I like Berea. That little artisan area that they got, it's nice. Sometimes I'll just stop and just walk around for a little bit. But this happened on January 22nd, 2013. So this is kind of an older case. Followed by suspicious a fire and a final text referencing Rockcastle County. So that's how Rockcastle County gets involved. Her case remains unsolved, and investigators believe foul play is likely. Obviously, she's never been found. So Brooke was 18. She attended a party in Berea on the night of June 21st to 22nd of 2013. After an argument with one of her friends, she stayed behind and left. She stayed behind, her friend left. So that's what happened. So she ended up at the home of Josh Hensley, and he was staying at a foreclosed house with no electricity or running water. He was basically staying until they kicked him out. So between 4 a.m. and 5:30 a.m., Brooke sent multiple text messages to her ex-boyfriend. And these are confirmed. The ex-boyfriend's story is confirmed. But she texted him and said, "Can you hurry? Please hurry. I'm scared." And at 5:30, there was a final message. She said, well, she had said that Josh Hensley made her uncomfortable. So the case, at 5:30 a.m., she texted him back. Apparently, her ex-boyfriend worked third shift, and he wasn't going to get off work until 7 a.m. This was confirmed. He was at work. But she sent a message to him at 5:30 in the morning. He said, "Never mind," or she said, "Never mind, I'm okay. I'm going to a party in Rockcastle County." Investigators believed this last message may not have been sent by Brooke. Duh. So there was a fire. So this fire comes into play. So Hensley he left briefly to check on horses, but if you look at the case, he made several excuses as to where he was at. So this is like red flag number one for me. When he returned around 7 a.m., the house was on fire, starting on the couch where Brooke was last seen. So apparently, is that Brooke was smoking a cigarette and caught the couch on fire, and then her body just spontaneously combusted or something, or she vanished. Her boots, purse, and clothes were still inside the house. Only her phone was missing. Interesting. So the fire was ruled suspicious. Now, they did track her phone activity. Brooke's phone pinged for the last time on June 23rd near Blue Lick, which is a rural area. There's no further activity has ever been detected since. So the only direct link to Rockcastle County specifically is the final text message saying that she was going to Rockcastle County. I don't believe she actually made it to Rockcastle County. No one knows where the party was at, whose party it was, just that she was going to some party in Rockcastle County. So police and family doubt she sent it, obviously. No confirmed sightings or evidence place her physically in Rockcastle County. So that's part of it I agree with. I don't think she made it to Rockcastle County. The message is widely viewed as a diversion or attempt to mislead the investigation. So Brooke expressed fear repeatedly. She had arranged a ride home and was waiting for it. She left behind all personal belongings, which her family says is very uncommon for her. It's consistent with voluntary disappearance. The fire appears intentionally set and timed with her disappearance, obviously to probably destroy evidence. So the final text is inconsistent with her earlier message and behavior. Police have publicly stated they believe she was taken against her will. It's going to be hard to, cross-reference a lot of that information because they've never found her body. They don't know if there's defensive wounds or, if she has, skin under her fingernails, if she fought, if there's any kind of abrasions, any kind of DNA that they can pull off the body because they never found the body. So if we look at the location that she was last seen in, does it make sense that her phone pinged last in Blue Lick if she said she was going to Rockcastle County? So I mapped that out and looked at it. No, that makes no sense. So the Blue Lick ping does not make geographic sense in Brooklyn's if she truly intended to go to Rockcastle County. The phone's final location points in the opposite direction of where she claimed she was going. So obviously she actually went in the opposite direction of where she said she was going. Based on publicly reported facts, Brooklyn was last seen at Dillon Court in Berea. Her final text at 5:30 a.m. said she was going to a party in Rockcastle County, but investigators and family doubt that she sent that message. 2 days later, her phone pinged for the last time near Blue Lick. So Berea, relation to Rockcastle County, is south. Rockcastle County is south of Berea. For those of you who don't know, I know all you people in my comments know. Her final, which is directly down I-75. So Blue Lick is not in Rockcastle County and is not on the route towards it. It's in a different rural direction, entirely north-northeast, depending on specific tower reference that they reported. So the phone's movement does not align with the stated destination. This strongly supports investigators' belief that the final text was sent by someone else to mislead. So I would say that her body's probably north-northeast of Berea. So that's kind of where they're at on that case. There's some backstory stuff, but I'm not going to reveal that yet because I want to make sure I'm right before I announce that I'm right. So just for information, I know the Rockcastle people will appreciate that. I've been getting a lot of good feedback on this case. A lot of people are trying to help. People were saddened by this case. So as always, we'll be working on the Doug Harless case, like always, and finding all the inconsistencies and all the shenanigans that London PD is trying to pull, trying to keep city council from firing people and looking into the case further. That's what he's doing. Yeah, we should probably just let J Money investigate. He seems to be on it right now. J Money's going to war with John Root. Be interesting to see how that all pans out. But that's the show for the day. Everybody stay safe. I'm out. Peace.